Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week to talk you through some great actionable tips that you can use within your business to launch, build, grow it. I'm delighted to be joined this week by Mike Rhodes. Hi there, Mike. How are you doing?
G'day, mate. I'm very good. Great to be here.
Excellent. Really, really good to have you on too. So we are obsessed, as I think you know, about launches, particularly in this season. I wonder if you could talk us through your launch journey, please.
Oh my goodness. For this particular business, this happened when I saw a guy who's now my co-author, Perry Marshall, speak about Google Ads. I had been coaching and consulting to small businesses. I'd sold my first business. I thought I was semi-retired. And here was this guy talking about this new thing, Google Ads, or Google AdWords it was called back then.
Yeah.
And 2004. What? Hang on a minute. You mean there's this thing where you only show ads to people that are searching for exactly what you have to sell, and then you only pay if they're willing to click? Because all these businesses I've been chatting to were doing Yellow Pages, letterbox drops, and radio ads, and it wasn't working very well. Wow. Every single one of them said, "Mate, if we could just get a few more customers, life would be great. Everything would be fantastic. That would solve all of my problems." And then here is this guy talking about what seems to be the perfect solution to all of their problems. My goodness, this is, and I rushed back to my mastermind, hair on fire, trying to tell everybody about it. One of the guys in my mastermind said, "Mate, I don't want you to consult to me or tell me about this. I'll give you half of my business." And we sold 100 grand's worth of stuff in 3.5 weeks. I went, "Oh my God, this stuff works." Okay, then. And I pretty much started the agency off the back of that.
Fantastic. And for those who are launching right now, it doesn't always work like that, does it?
Doesn't always work like that. No.
I mean, most of the time for sure, but not necessarily every single time. And do you? So obviously, you've been building that business up now, 2004. So that's over the last 16 years or so. You are not in the UK. You are over in Australia.
Not anymore. Yeah, born in the UK, left 20 odd years ago. Got a little bit distracted in New Zealand on the way, which happens to a lot of people. Went for 3 weeks, stayed for 3 years. Yeah, started my first business there. Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
Yeah, and there was some surfing and stuff like that, or snowboarding over that way. Is that
snowboarding?
Yeah, okay.
It's Queenstown, New Zealand. Wonderful, beautiful place. Actually busier in summer than it is in winter, but beautiful place. So yeah, got a bit distracted there, and saw an opportunity. Started my first business there in 1999. Which, if anybody knows anything about Queenstown, that was the year they had their once in 150-year flood. Oh. Now, I thought I was insured, but I wasn't, it turned out. Spent a week building this internet cafe. All my friends pitched in, painted the ceiling, building the desks. I was building the computers, and it poured with rain the whole week. And we're like, oh, good time to be inside. Had a party on the Saturday night. Everything's going well. We opened. Ran it free for everybody for the first day to get all the lifties and all the restaurant guys in. And,
I guess great PR. Yeah.
Know your market. First day, profitable. This is great. Still raining. No wonder we're full. This is awesome. The lake's looking a bit full. Called my landlord and he said, "Nah, be fine, mate. Look, I've lived here for decades. Don't be stupid." Got up at 7 o'clock the next morning, walked down the hill, and there was water lapping at the end of the street. So the lake had come up another couple of meters.
Wow.
And I was like, well, okay. And by 9 o'clock, it was lapping at the front door. We got all the computers out. We took apart all the desks. I had to cut the carpet, roll the carpet up, take the carpet out. And by the end of day 3, we were sitting under 2.5 feet of water. Wow. It was amazing how fast it happened.
Geez. I'm trying to think
business number one.
Yeah, it's some karmic, so the Google Ads was kind of like a payback. The universe was being kind of payback for that. So
I don't know, but yeah, learns a lot about resilience that week.
For sure. And look, these are stories of the kind of highs and lows of launching businesses, right? There is no way of knowing what it is that is going to befall you, either positively or negatively. If you were kind of advising people who are starting out and stuff like that, what sort of attributes, what sort of elements would you think people really need to focus in on?
Yeah, resilience is a good one. I was chatting to my kids about something very similar last night, but curiosity. I think curiosity is at the root of everything, because if you want to understand why, really dig into why, that part of that, I guess, is your own why. Like, that is one thing you definitely want to be clear on. Why do you want to do this business? Because if you're just doing it to make some cash, then you're probably not going to survive those lows that you're talking
Floods.
about. They are high highs and low lows and floods. I had a bunch of people come to me and say, "Oh, so what are you going to do now? Are you going to go back to the UK? Are you going to start something else? Are you going to go and be a waiter in a restaurant again like you were before?" No, we'll wait for the water to go down and we'll rebuild and slap some paint on the walls and
The carpet
carry
back
on.
on again.
Yeah, it only really delayed us 5 weeks. I mean, it cost a bit. My landlord was brilliant. He was really helpful. But yeah, I think a bit of grit, a bit of resilience. But if you know why you're doing it, then that pulls you through those horrible times. And there will be some. But the joke is that, you don't want to know what lies ahead, because if you knew everything that lies ahead, you'd never do it. A bit like parenting, really.
Yeah, it is a bit like parenting. Yeah.
But yeah, curiosity, resilience, flexibility. Yeah. I'm still learning flexibility, but I am. A lot of people tell me I'm the most curious person that they've met, in a good way. That sounds really bad, but in a good way. Yeah. I love digging into everything. I want to understand why. I pulled apart my nan's, I don't know what it was called, but the Magimix type thing when I was 8 years old. Pulled it all apart on the floor, put it back together again, and it worked. It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, and so that level of fun. Yeah, and there is that kind of mindset, isn't it? Really, it's about kind of, as you say, if you know why you're doing something. We obsess about that here as well in product concept. Is the why? Well, why am I solving this problem? Is the question.
Yeah,
that's so important. But once people have found that, it's much more about that why than the how. So the how is something that you can kind of change and fix and do all sorts of different stuff.
That's going to change all the time. Somebody very smart once said to me, fall in love with the problem. Don't fall in love with your solution. A lot of businesses come at it with, I've got this solution, and then they go looking for a problem. And when the problem changes a bit, their solution then doesn't work, but they're so like, this is my solution to this problem. What problem? Come back. I need you. I've got a solution to you.
Yeah.
But fall in love with the problem. Fall in love with Dan Sullivan out of the US, strategiccoach.com, I think, says, who do you want to be a hero to? I think that's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
Like, who do you want to serve?
Yeah.
Fall in love with that market and their problems and be curious about why those problems exist and solve those, then you're never going to be short of work, are you?
Brilliant. That's so true. And let's reflect that back to you then. So why are you doing this, Mike?
Mate, I've just always loved the business of business. Since I was a kid, I would ask friends of my parents about their businesses. I guess it skipped a couple of generations. My dad did the corporate thing, but my possibly great, can't quite remember, granddad had a piano company in North London, Finsbury Park.
Yeah.
So I always sort of felt a pull towards that. Like, I've gone through Google Maps, and back in the day, I think we went for a walk down there once to see where the factory and the warehouse used to be. Wow. It's something completely different now. And my nan would tell me stories of walking around on the floor and the smell of the sawdust. So I always had that kind of, yes, I have this entrepreneurial connection to me. I always knew I would have my own business, I think. I was told once, that's a very long story, we don't need to wander off on that tangent, but I was told once by a very smart man that I value my freedom and independence far too much to join the Army Air Corps. So I don't get to fly the fun helicopters with him. You're not going to join my army. There's a space here for you if you want it. I did get offered the job, but we both agreed that it wasn't the right thing for me. And that really stuck with me of, yes, you're right. I do value my freedom and my independence. I am fairly unemployable. I don't like being told what to do. But I guess all of those traits came together where I knew I would be doing something. And the business of business, I've always loved helping people grow business. And I've only worked out as I get older that that's really about helping people grow.
Yeah.
I used to say it was about helping businesses grow, but really it's now with my team, giving them a learning fund, go learn things every year, be curious, I guess.
Yeah.
And businesses, yes, too many tangents, too many stories, but yes, I just love helping businesses grow.
Yeah, and you're so right there is because businesses are people, right? And this is kind of, they take on the personality and the attributes of course, the whole DNA of everybody within it, but certainly those kind of higher up, and particularly the founder, perhaps. And that's, for me, and working with the kind of business I do as well, it's very much about that. It's about, there's the business growth and there's the personal growth that are almost intertwined. And I think that journey that entrepreneurs go on is just a fascinating one, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. And if you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said, oh, mindset is everything. 99% of a business mindset. And then if you'd asked me a few years after that, I would have said, bloody hell, team is everything, because you can't do anything without the team. But I think those two go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
As your mindset grows, you delegate different things, you need different skills around you, you're more aware of your weaknesses the older you get, and you build a team to supplement that and to leverage and to build faster and grow faster and help you with all the areas you're not good at.
Yeah.
And then once you have that bit in place, I think then your mindset changes again. But then you hit that ceiling of complexity, your mindset changes, you grow as a person, your vision for what's possible grows, and then that cycle repeats. And I sort of, that's what it feels like to me at my little level, much smaller than some of the businesses you've worked with. But
yeah. It is so fascinating. There is that kind of constant, almost kind of ebb and flow, as you say, between what's possible and what you kind of believe, because you've almost fixed, to an extent, some of the problems that you've got personally, as in things that you can't do yourself, by putting in good people. And then there's more stuff, and then you build it up from that, right?
And then you go, oh wow, well, if that bit's handled, we could do that. Like when I started, I had absolutely zero need, idea, possibility of running a team of 100 people. And I remember saying one day to a mate, mate, I don't want to run an agency with 100 people. He said, yeah, but would you like to own one? That's a very good question.
Yes.
And now I can see a path to it. Back then we were, I don't know, 5-6 people, and I couldn't conceive of being where we are now. But now we're here at 30-ish people. I can see a path to 50, certainly. And I guess when we get to that, maybe we'll head to 100, maybe we won't, maybe we'll stay at this size for a bit, because we're not chasing a big number stuck on a wall. We just want to do great work for interesting people, and the work keeps coming in. We keep growing. It's organic. I'm not, I didn't go out and do the startup thing and get funded, and I'm not chasing some VC's dream of we need to hit this number in order to float or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't, not the game I want to play.
Yeah, and I mean, and congratulations on where you've got with the business as well. I mean, it's a really good example of how to build that out from the ground up. For those who are starting out and are looking at that sort of growth themselves, and perhaps not going down, as you say, the VC route, what should they look for in the people that they hire? Their first hire, their second hire.
I think I got incredibly lucky with almost everybody I've hired. And certainly that first guy I hired, a guy called Steve here in Melbourne, who was kind of another me. So that got us sort of a bit of scale early on, someone that thought like me. We were both on tools. We were able to bounce things back between each other. And then later on, it was more about the project management and the running of the team, the hiring. I have a wonderful general manager now who I don't tell her, but I couldn't cope without her. She is absolutely fabulous.
We won't release this, but we'll cut it out.
but like all of the day-to-day and the hiring and dealing with all of that stuff, which she does a wonderful job of. What should you look for? I guess, a lot of flexibility. You don't want someone early on that's going to say, well, that's not in my job description. I can only think of 1 or 2 people I've ever hired that have been like that, and they didn't last long in our environment, in our culture. There was no culture. There was no sort of thought of, what's the culture we're going to build? It happened organically. And I think a lot of culture is, like you say, a reflection of the founder, and it stays that way for a little while until you get to that size where you sit down one day and go, I guess, but it's about now we should probably think about our culture and consciously keep the bits that have organically grown that we want to keep, and maybe just let's steer away from these little things that are starting to pop up. Let's make sure they don't become a problem, and let's get a bit more conscious about it. But what should you look for? I guess flexibility more than anything, curiosity again, because there's going to be a lot of changes. You don't know what you don't know when you're just starting out, and your business may end up being quite different from what you originally thought. Again, fall in love with the problem, not your solution. So it's probably going to change.
And you need people who are willing to go along that journey, who themselves aren't stuck in one way of going, and this is my job, and I'm not going to go apart from these walls.
I think that's super important, and people that are not afraid of a bit of hard work and that show a bit of grit. I mean, you're always going to make sure they're okay. You're the one taking all the risk. You're the one that's always going to pay them, and you might have to eat baked beans and ramen noodles for a bit, but It's
All right,
fun.
you get used to after a while.
Yeah.
And do you have that kind of? I've been talking about culture because it is a really interesting one, and I think particularly for kind of growing businesses, is there a mission statement? Have you got that kind of? Is that the level you've gone to, or is it just something that's a kind of DNA internalized thing?
Yeah, it's more of a DNA. Like everybody knows, like we are here to grow businesses. That's it. As far as our mission goes, that's it. We love to grow businesses, and I didn't want to get it any more fancy than that. I don't like those mission statements that are basically all interchangeable. You could hide the company name at the top of those pieces of paper and you could swap them all around and you wouldn't have a clue which one was which.
Yeah.
So
I think we've all come across those.
I think the culture for me was more important. So we're very clear on our values, and that is part of the hiring process. It's part of our reward and recognition program. It's part of the profit share and incentive schemes. Everybody knows, like, you must be living the values. There's not a piece of paper stuck on the wall that that. We talk about it in the weekly meetings. We gave a prize to a guy the other day. So we have this reward and recognition. It's not we must do this every week, because I hate newsletters like that. It's like, oh shit, it's the first of the month, we better get our newsletter out. Newsletters that just arrive when someone has something to say. So it's kind of the same with the reward and recognition. When someone's done something above and beyond, we're going to recognize that and give them a silly prize. And my head of Google stood up in front of the team last week and said, because this person has displayed these values and this, and tied it all back to those values. So we're doing that all the time and trying to reinforce that.
Brilliant. And kind of giving everyone permission to be generous to each other and to recognize it in their colleagues.
Love that. Yeah, the word generous does not get used enough in business.
No, do you know what? I think you're absolutely right. And a lot of it is seen as this hard kind of, really tough sort of, grind, and everybody's, kind of wincing in the strain and all that sort of stuff. But
business like you say, war.
Yeah, exactly. But if you can get the right people involved, if you can retain that curiosity, get some resilience behind you, then it can be a little bit fun, actually.
A great team of people can do. A great team of people can do bloody anything. It's just point them in the direction that they want to go and let them go. It's pretty amazing.
Couldn't agree more. Brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for this so far. I have a few quick questions for you, if I may.
Sure.
Do you have anybody that you look at as a kind of inspiration? Is there anybody that you sort of think about when, what would this person do?
There are a few that come to mind, many who I haven't met, most that I haven't met. So I read a lot. So a lot of authors are popping up in my mind. I'm going to choose Dan Sullivan. I mentioned him earlier, strategiccoach.com. Never met the guy. He might be surprised to hear this, but I have been listening to his stuff for 20 years. He's now got quite a few podcasts out there, so you can sort of pick and choose the one that suits you best. He's really embraced technology. A guy who sat down with his team aged 70, I think, and said, here's my plan for my life for the next 25 years. So he has this concept of your future is always bigger than your past.
Wow.
And so here's where I'm going to be at 95, and here's what the business is going to look like at 95. I love the way he thinks. So ADHD, he has basically, as far as I know, this is my interpretation, but he has created a business that works with him the way his brain works. He's created these thinking tools that protect his team from him and protect him from his team in a way. And just like look up one of his tools is the impact filter. It is just genius. It's super simple, but it just makes you get clear about stuff. He won't hold a meeting without an impact filter, as I understand it. Again, I've never met the guy, but I love the way he thinks about thinking. So I guess it's that curiosity coming out again.
Yeah, and giving them just a totally different take on things. And I always like to kind of get that far away sort of telescopic vision that's just different to mine.
Perspective is another one of those, I think, the most underrated things in business. Someone that can help give you that perspective. I remember a really bad moment in the business, and I called up my coach, and she said, okay, let's pretend for a moment we're a year from now looking back at this. What's this thing actually meant for the business? And straight away I was like, oh, actually it's been really good because we were able to do this, and then we weren't constrained by this anymore. Oh, isn't that interesting? And it just instantly, I was literally just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And she was just instantly able turn that around by just giving me a little bit of perspective, by getting it away from here. And just, let's hold it over there for a minute and pretend it's in the past. Brilliant question. But yeah, perspective is so important.
Fantastic. And you mentioned a coach there. Is that something that you've had over a long period of time? Have you had different coaches? Is it something you value?
Different coaches. Yeah. I do value it. I dip in and out. I guess I am what Americans would call a rugged individualist, you know. I think I can do it myself, so I'll just stick my head down and try a bit harder. But every time I get a coach, I go, oh my God, this is just so much better. And every time she sends me the bill, I'm like, bloody hell, that's expensive. And every time I sit down for a chat, I'm like, I've got nothing to say. Really? I don't know what I'm going to ask. And then you get up from there an hour and a half later going, oh, thank God we did that. I feel so much better. Yeah, a good coach that meets you where you're at. Somebody else's great coach, if your problem's here and that coach specializes over here, it doesn't really, it's not going to do anything. But someone that can help you in your bit at the moment. I mean, you help much bigger businesses than mine, right? So there'd be some overlap there, but there would be other businesses that are like, oh, what Maldor is, it's just amazing. And for me right now, this lady, she was COO of a 2,000 person business. Like, just been there, done that, seen it all. Also a parent of 2 young kids, so we kind of have that in common. Just fabulous lady that has helped a lot.
And I think that time you set aside for yourself as well is good, isn't it? It's like you say, you kind of go in, your brain is so fried from like what's right now, right here, that email that's still sitting in your inbox. And then it's just, you know, it takes time, but then like you say, you kind of come out and go, wow, look at the trees.
and it forces you've paid that cash, it forces that mechanism of you have to disconnect, you have to come out and take the helicopter view and look down. You can't go, oh no, too busy, sorry, too many emails.
Exactly.
You know that would be ridiculous.
It's value.
Yes, I probably need to do it more than I actually do it. I think I've just talked myself into another round.
I'm not on commission, by the way. That's not me.
Right.
I don't know them. If you were starting out again, would there be any advice that you would give to yourself and potentially to other entrepreneurs? Or is it easier to frame it in terms of what would you tell new entrepreneurs right now?
Because I do sort of believe that you end up where you are. Like, would I go back and not have the flood, or moments like that? I think so many of the things we've already talked about, of just know why you're doing it, know that there are going to be shitty times ahead. There are going to be days you want to throw the whole thing out the window, and that doesn't go away once you start growing. You just want to throw it out the window for different reasons, frankly.
Just heavier.
It doesn't happen very often, I will say. But there are days where you just go, bugger this, I just, there's got to be something easier than this. But you keep going back to, but what's the alternative? Go and get a job? And no,
I still haven't fixed it. I've still got this thing to do, and it's still not done.
It's still not working the way I want it to work. And just how and why, and just fall in love with the problem, know who you want to serve, and know that it's going to be a hard old road, and do it anyway.
Brilliant. Listen, on that note, we are going to leave it. So thank you so much, because that's just awesome. Tell us, Mike, how can people that want to know more about you find you?
Best place is our main website, so websavvy.com.au, because we're down here in Australia. There's a way to get in touch with me on there. If you've got any kind of question, if you've got to talk about business, send me a note. I love growing businesses. So ask me a question, send me a note, and I will help if I possibly can.
That comes over loud and clear, mate. Thank you so much for your time again. Really, really great to see you. That was the Growth Execution podcast for this week. I hope you got some great tips from Mike, and do reach out to him, get in touch.